Hi, everyone. It's Reena Jadhav with the Healthier Podcast and founder and CEO of HealthBootcamps. And today I am so excited and so delighted and honored to have with us Dr. Mukta Khalsa, who is the director of Super Health and whose book, Meditations for Addictive Behavior, a system of yogic science and nutritional formula, is what we're talking about in our book masterclass today. Dr. Mukta, welcome.
Thank you so much.
So let's talk a little bit about Super Health first. Super Health is on the cutting edge of recovery protocols. The system combines core technologies of Kundalini Yoga, meditation, breathing, nutrition restoration, and dietary formula, all as taught by Yogi Bhajan, who we're going to learn a little bit about today. I was completely blown away by how remarkable his life and his contributions have been and how little we know about him. So we're going to learn a little bit about him today. And in Super Health, participants gain the ancient wisdom of yogic science combined with the innovations of Western medicine to progress from recovery to self-discovery. What's remarkable is that Super Health is, of course, an NGO recognized by United Nations, but it is in fact the only CEU provider integrating yogic science into the medical community and mainstream society for recovery. I'm so excited to welcome you. Dr. Mukta, we're talking about your book. Let's start first with, tell us a little bit about your journey. How did you become Dr. Mukta Khalsa?
Well, thank you so much for having me on this show. I'm very excited. Well, it's been a process, and without seeking, I haphazardly, accidentally met Yogi Bhajan when I was 20 years old in Los Angeles, and he had just arrived to America and began teaching yoga. I had really never heard of it before, but I was young. I was curious enough to attend the classes, and I was blown away. I had never experienced anything like this before.
That's incredible. And so are you the founder of Super Health? What's the origin of Super Health?
Yes. Well, of course, all the technology he gave very, very freely, because when he arrived here in America in 1969, he saw a lot of youth, especially the youth, using a lot of drugs. They were seeking a spiritual experience. They just didn't know how to go about to get that. And so they found a spiritual awakening. However, it was in drugs. It was in a lot of hallucinogens. And so it did give them that experience, but very unnaturally with this pill. And when he came on the scene, the first thing he said was drugs are a drag. He never supported the illegal use. Now, of course, that's different from medication, but the illegal use of drugs, he said, now you have to do it on your own. And Kundalini Yoga became a vehicle to help people to achieve that state of feeling good, that high, so you call it, that they were seeking, but in a natural, healthy way.
I have to share my own experience at this point. For those of you who are wondering if Kundalini Yoga is real, yes, it is. And while I didn't have the privilege of learning it with Yogi Bhajan or with Dr. Mukta Khalsa, I did learn it via Sadhguru, and I do experience a ridiculous buzz and high every morning, to the point where I'm giggling and joyous and loving just being alive. And every one of you needs to experience this. It is a high like no drug, no alcohol can give you. I've not had a drink in over 2.5 years, and I can tell you the high that I get from this Kundalini Yoga experience outbeats any of those highs. So it is real, because often I'm asked, I think it's all made up, Kundalini Yoga. Who's even experienced it? I've done it.
Yeah, it's very, very real. And when you think about it, the quote unquote high that you speak of, it's just simply, many times we experience that just through the breathing. Once you begin to learn how to breathe long and deeply, taking more oxygen beginning at the abdomen, this goes to your head, to your brain, and so it's enlivening. It gives you a spiritual experience, or just a lighter experience, because that's food for your brain, is oxygen. So it's not so mysterious. It actually, like you said, it does work.
Mm-hmm. Mhm. All right, well, let's get started with chapter one, Yogi Bhajan. Tell our listeners a little bit about this brilliant, remarkable spiritual avatar.
Yes. Well, Yogi Bhajan came to the United States in the very late 1960s. He had been a master of Kundalini Yoga at that point. But what that actually meant, he was still to discover himself. And so, like I mentioned, he found a lot of these young people, particularly the youth, were attracted to him because they were seeking that spiritual experience. And so they would begin to attend the yoga classes, learn how to meditate. And very soon after he kept repeating the mantra, drugs are a drag, people did slowly start leaving the drugs and begin to practice more of the yoga in a healthy way. And so they had their own experience. And so the teachings made sense to them because it wasn't somebody just telling them what to do, but they had their own personal reality of this is how it makes me feel. And I like this, and I'd like to do more of it.
Let's talk a little bit about the recognition that he received.
Yes, well, he was very, very beloved, and he would meet with any and everyone. He would meet with religious leaders, he would meet with politicians, he would meet with Hollywood, Bollywood folks, he would meet with anyone who was willing to talk to him. He would befriend them all. And so when he did pass away in 2004, this had only been done 4 times before by any kind of religious leader. There was a joint congressional resolution that honored his life. And the 3 other people were Mother Teresa, Martin Luther King, and Pope John Paul II, and now Yogi Bhajan. And so this was honored both in both chambers, in the Senate, the US Senate, as well as the House of Representatives in Washington, honoring his life's work.
That's absolutely remarkable for him to be one of the 4 amazing other individuals, other spiritual souls that have been recognized. Quite remarkable.
Even in our road in New Mexico, which is where I lived, which is where he lived the latter part of his life, the governor, who was very, very good friends with him, named the road after he passed away, Yogi Bhajan Memorial Highway. So if you come here to New Mexico, in northern New Mexico, you'll have the opportunity to travel on Yogi Bhajan Memorial Highway.
I'm looking forward to that. All right, chapter 2, Kundalini Yoga. Tell our listeners a little bit about what exactly is Kundalini Yoga.
Yes, Kundalini Yoga is called the yoga of awareness. There are many, many kinds of different yogas. This particular yoga is not only about physical postures and breathing, but it's also about awareness. It's about consciousness. You know, to be very honest with you, you could do yoga, any kind of yoga, and you could do each posture perfectly, but you could still be an idiot. Excuse me, but an idiot in your caliber, in your character as a person, in the decisions you make, how you communicate. All this is also a part of you. So it's not just a physical postures and how well you do it. It's not like yoga Olympics. Each one of us has the ability to do some postures better than others. Even if you do it in a chair, it's absolutely fine. But what that does is it gives you a greater sense of awareness or consciousness. You begin not only to think about yourself or only about yourself and your family, which of course is very important, but then you begin to extend out to others. You care about other people as well as just yourself or only your immediate family. So it's a conscious effort, and that's what Kundalini Yoga means, the yoga of awareness, physical, mental, and spiritual.
And often we are told that Kundalini is equivalent to a coiled snake in the base of our spine. And Kundalini Yoga is a method or a technology to really release that energy that's been dormant or latent. Is that true?
Yes, it is. It's like when you think about it, we are born intuitively sensitive. If you've ever been around an infant, you'll see how very highly sensitized they are. The crown, the top part of their head is soft. It's very open, and this is what we call a chakra, a source of energy. And so, even their eyes flutter. If there's a sound or a noise that is offensive, they communicate, they'll cry. This is the way they talk, they communicate. And so what happens is, as adults, this intuition basically shuts down. Why? Because our environment many times is not conducive to that. We have so many noises, especially in the city, where there's loud honking and traffic and noises and loud music, that it kind of is very, very harsh to the sensitive ear. And so that sensitivity of intuition starts to shut down. And one of the byproducts of Kundalini Yoga is, like you call that, awakening of your intuition. It's kind of like a sixth sense where you just know. I'm sure we've all experienced at one time or another a sense of, oh, I have a feeling about this. Now, the question is, do we follow it? Do we trust it? And that's what also the practice of the yoga, and as we work on our awareness, it enables us to trust that and to try. And if you have that sense, we'll try, go with it, even though analytically, intellectually, it might not make sense. But many times it just works out if you just trust that. So it's also very, very sensitive. And that's something like about what you just asked with the snake, the uncoiling of that energy, the spiritual energy or intuition.
So it's a great way for those who are interested in heightening their intuition, whether it's for business success, personal success, social success. It's a great tool, or great technology as it's called, to really help you develop those skills, develop that intuition. How long do you have to practice Kundalini? Do you practice every single day, Dr.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I mean, of course, that's my goal too.
Yes.
We're all human.
Yes, yes. How often should someone be practicing Kundalini Yoga to maximize its benefits?
Well, in a perfect situation, it's best to do it daily, because to tell you the truth, from day to day, we forget. We forget our
Absolutely.
awareness. We go to sleep. We have the pressures of everyday life, of work and personal pressures, and we kind of forget things. And so every day we try to discipline ourselves physically. Okay, let me just sit here and just do some breathing, do some stretching, loosen up, and then let me just sit with myself. With the meditations, what that gives is a mental self-control. Basically, you don't have yourself unless you have the ability to mentally just control yourself.
So true.
And it's not being taught anywhere. We have the finest degrees all over our wall, and we're not even taught how to focus, how to be decisive, how to be clear, how to be intuitively sensitive. We don't learn this, and so it's a great asset to just have that discipline and just sit with yourself and do, whether it's a breath meditation or just a sound, even through music, whatever it is, it gives us the opportunity to just relax, just be with yourself. Your mind will definitely sometimes buck at that. It will try to fight it and make excuses.
Every day.
Every day we battle that.
There's a reason not to do it every day.
And the excuses are
You have to be stronger than your strongest excuse.
They're the most fabulous excuses you ever want, because the ego is that strong. Yeah. But if you make a commitment, even to within yourself, I'm going to do this for this week or 40 days, whatever it is, can you do that? Can you conquer your own mind and sit with the fickleness of your mind and the fidgetiness of your body, and just sit there and just do it? It's a training.
And Dr. Mukta, we're talking about yogic science for addictive behavior, right? And what's interesting is that even something like meditating every day or doing Kundalini yoga every single day is an art form of training that muscle in your mind to follow your orders. Because I think to a large extent, addictive behavior is your mind run amok. And sort of, right? It's your mind's controlling you, and you've confused yourself as your mind. And so telling your mind, no, we are going to sit and do this itself is a phenomenal training as far as I'm concerned. So I do it every morning, and I'm not joking. Every morning, my brain has a reason to not do it. Every morning, people ask me, how do you do it? And I kind of always say, well, I just do it. But it's really not that simple. I'll be brushing my teeth and going, oh, I should really get on and do this, or I should really start working on that, or oh my God, I have to do this. I'll come up with 20 reasons why I don't have 22 minutes. But I have trained myself to say, everything can wait. I'm going to go sit down. And for me, it's because I realized that the days that I don't do it, I get reprogrammed into the muck that we are surrounded with. The media is retraining us every single day to do everything wrong, to eat the wrong foods and say the wrong things and think the wrong thoughts. And a couple of days without meditation, and I find myself falling into the same trap. And so I quickly tell myself, oh gosh, no, I got to get back and meditate because I need to be in control. And so for me, meditation has...
When you think about addictive behavior, and it's not just substances, it's also the way we think, the way we act, all that is also an addiction.
Yes.
But, many times we think of it as a physical thing. It's also psychological.
Yes.
And to tell you the truth, that's really where the problem is. I mean, physically, you could go, detox or cleanse your body, your nervous system in just a few days. However, the mind, the psychological addiction, the urge, the triggers that get set, all these mental excuses, all that's where the real problem is. So once you go through this mental training every day and that commitment, you've got half of it right there, because you could learn to command your mind. When you think about it, if you're going to pick up whatever your drug of choice is, it could even be food. That could be your drug of choice. It's not just a substance or alcohol as we think about it, or a cigarette. It could be food. It could be anything. But once you pick that up, the first thing before that action comes the thought to pick it up. Then comes your hand reaching for it. So if you could control that initial thought, I must go get
a cookie,
whatever it is, a drink, a cookie, a cigarette, even gambling, or I must go to the casino, whatever it is, whatever, like I said, your drug of choice is, if you could command that original mind, that first thought, I must go, you've got it. You've got it. But it's a training, it's a commitment, and it's every day. Even if you miss one day, you don't stop. It's tomorrow. I'm going to do it. I'll do it. I'll do it. And every day you fight with yourself, and every day you do it. And after a while, the mental conversation becomes a little bit softer, a little bit less. And you just know, I'm committed to this no matter what. And sometimes it's the most grueling experience. You can't stop moving. You can't stop thinking. That's normal. That's absolutely normal. But you don't compromise whether I'm going to do it or not, or you get up in the middle because my mind is all over the place. Your mind is always all over the place. It's a training.
Yes, it is. All right, chapters 3 and 4, breathing and meditation. Tell us a little bit about the core science behind breathing and meditation, and then we're going to dive into the actual meditations.
Yes, then. Okay, so we are born by the breath. When we are during our birth, the doctors, the midwives, the first thing they're concerned about is the child breathing properly? That's the first concern. Now, take the man all the way on his deathbed. With all the money and power he has, what is he gasping for?
Breath.
That last breath. So we realize it's the most important thing in the beginning. It's the most important thing at the end. And for some reason, in between, which is where we all are, we get amnesia. We forget. Forget about the importance of this breath of life. And so the way you breathe affects your state of mind. You'll notice that a very angry, anxious person, how are they breathing? Usually their breath is very erratic, it's very rapid, it's very irregular. And you'll also notice that a very calm, non-reactive person is breathing long and deeply. And so the way you breathe affects your state of mind. As we said, this is food for your brain. And so we begin to breathe from the abdomen, from the navel point. It might seem unusual, but once you concentrate on moving with the abdomen, this much more oxygen comes in to your head, to your brain. So it gives you a conscious awareness and experience, especially in day-to-day life, when you feel yourself getting anxious and reactive. That's the moment to start remembering to breathe long and deeply. Once you could capture that long, deep breath in the most reactive, challenging situations, you've got it. You're in command because more oxygen will go to your brain. You're able to think clearer. You're not going to be reactive, but you're going to act effectively. That's the value of the way we breathe.
And how about meditation? By the way, before we dive into that, I have to mention sleep apnea is on the rise. If you look at the science behind a lot of the issues people have, they started testing for something called sleep apnea, and they found that sleep apnea is real, where people sort of almost stop breathing at night. Now there's these contraptions and these devices that you have to get hooked up. We have a friend, dear friend, who has sleep apnea, and so I've learned a little bit about sleep apnea through that. I myself sometimes feel I wake up gasping for air, and to your point, breathing is life, and if you're not breathing when you're sleeping, that's even a bigger issue. But what's worse is if you're not breathing in your waking hours. So I couldn't agree more. Breathing is instrumental. What about meditation?
Meditation is, like we said, for mental self-control. If you don't have the ability to control your mind, you don't have yourself. You're completely in control and vulnerable to either other people's opinion or what the media is telling you or what some billboard is showing you or what some advertisement is trying to, induce you or convince you to purchase. You don't have yourself. All answers lie within. Look, you have your own questions. You also ultimately have your own answers. Who knows you better than you? What am I going to tell you about you? But so many times people can't figure out, well, I'm so confused. I don't know what to do. Tell me what to do. Okay, again, it's a process. It's a process of training the mind. Even if you experience one moment of that mental quietness, that's where your answer lies. In that moment, that's where your answer lies, where you just know what I'm to do. And if you don't know at that time, you know what? Don't do anything and just wait. And have the ability to be patient, not impetuous, not jumpy. I have to do something. No. Unless something is, of course, crisis or critical, just wait. Patience is also a virtue. And so just wait until it reveals itself what you're supposed to do, then proceed. But many times we get impatient and we want to just do what we want to do.
Yes.
And many times we end upside down, and then we wonder why we're miserable, because we may have forced a situation that we had to have happen. Maybe it wasn't supposed to happen today. Can you wait tomorrow? Maybe it's in your best interest just to deep breathe and just wait. Just be sure that this is what you're supposed to do. Then proceed. go, stop, you'll be directed. All answers lie within through the ability to control and discipline your mind. That's what mental meditation is.
Beautiful, beautiful. Let's do chapter 5, create a positive habit. What is the essence of that chapter?
Create a positive habits. Now, not all habits are destructive. Some habits are very good. Like if I commit to do a meditation, I develop a habit. That's a habit that's serving you. Obviously, those are the ones you want to keep. But there are some habits that are mischievous and they get us in trouble. It could be anything. It could be like reaching for, a cigarette, and then it affects your health. It could be like overeating or eating the foods that you're allergic to, or you get a reaction. It could be to a substance. It could be to anything. It could even be to behavioral. It could be to the way your mind thinks, and perhaps you always go to the negative. That's not possible. I can't do that. That's not going to work. Do you know people like that? Sometimes they always go negative, or they're always worried.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Many people like that. And I think the older we get, the more negative we seem to get. Absolutely.
And it's what you call imprinting.
Yes.
We're programmed.
Yes.
It's like a computer. We get programmed to function in one way until that very wonderful day happens, and it's like, I could reprogram this. I could reprogram this computer chip in my brain so that it serves me, so that the habits are constructive rather than destructive. And so you can make an analysis of your own life and which ones you want to maintain and which ones you want to take a look at, and know that there's the ability to facilitate that change. The right and left hemisphere of the brain must be in balance. That's what it does.
Beautiful. All right, chapter 6, crisis as a blessing. What is the essence of that?
Many times when we're challenged, we don't like that. Nobody does. We don't like to be challenged. However, life is challenging, and that's a reality. Things happen. It's called life. They happen. The question is, how are you going to deal with it? Are you going to fall apart? Are you going to have a nervous breakdown? Are you going to jump out the window? How are you going to deal with things that happen that you don't like or that you're not in control of? What this does is it develops grit. What I mean by grit is your inner strength. Not how well you can work out at the gym or how many weights you can lift. That's great, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about inner strength, the ability to be non-reactive, ability to be able to withstand pressures and stress of the time and still prevail and still make good conscious decisions of a man or a woman of caliber. That's what we're talking about. And so when we go through situations like this, it's very difficult, but we come out stronger than when we went into it. It's almost like a new person, but it's a new and improved version of you.
Very, very true. I had 2 health crises, and I can, again, share from my own experience. I feel sometimes crisis is the way of the universe to put us in a new direction. And if we're not open to listening, then we just keep experiencing crisis over and over again because we're just not listening and moving into the new path. I feel for me personally, my crisis led me to HealthBootcamps and wanting to commit the rest of my life to sharing the truth about health. And so I feel like in every crisis there is a learning. And if we start treating our crisis that way, when something terrible, terrible happens, instead of thinking everyone hates me, God hates me, that this is all coming to an end, we say, okay, what's happening? What's the message here? What am I listening? What am I not listening to? And what am I supposed to do in the storm? I think everyone will realize that crises truly are moments of journey into joy. That's how I look at it.
Exactly. If you see it as an opportunity, then life becomes just a happier person. You become a
Yes.
happier person because things do happen. And actually, when we're talking about all this training, the physical training, the mental training, it's in preparation for that moment. That
So
moment,
true.
the challenge happens.
So true. So true.
So it's like you said, it's boot camp, it's a training. So when that situation happens, that pressurizes us to such an extent that I know I can't jump out the window. I know I can't have a nervous breakdown. So what are the tools that I have that I've been practicing and learning? Even if there's one thing, that's the time to do it. That's the time to definitely sit down and get real with yourself and sit there and just command yourself.
You know, you make such an important point about either I can't jump out of the window or I can't have a nervous breakdown. Well, we're living in a nation that's having, again, an extreme rise in the number of suicides. And we're starting to see this, especially in teens. We're starting to see a rise in teen suicides. And same goes with anxiety and depression. I mean, as you know, that's one of the number one challenges we face these days is the whole anxiety, depression, suicide trifecta. And to your point, imagine having the technology to be able to be in the middle of a crisis and say, I have no reason to jump out of a window. I have absolutely no reason to have a meltdown just because this happened, because I'm ready for this.
Mm-hmm.
I love how you positioned that. I love how you are saying, look, treat this experience of meditation and Kundalini yoga and breathing right as a way to strengthen yourself to get ready for that. Because guess what? That's life. It's coming.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you want a crisis or not, it's coming.
Right,
And
right.
so why not be prepared for it? Or as, you know, surfers say, right? Get ready for that wave. Get ready to ride that wave
Mm-hmm.
and ride it smiling instead of giving up.
Exactly.
So well, that's beautiful. I love how you shared that.